Hello and welcome to another episode of Searching for Truth. It's been so long since I've put an interview out there. I'm so excited about this one though. Christopher Liam Stockton joined me a few weeks ago and finally I've got the interview out. I'm so pleased with this interview because I absolutely believe that it's going to inspire more survivors of child abuse to speak their truth. Now, there's a lot of details within this interview which may trigger you, you may find distressing, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. Christopher is proof that you can turn your life around. So without further ado, this is Christopher's story. Oh, Chris, are you okay for me to call you Chris? Is that?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, well, Chris, first of all, thank you so much for coming on Searching for Truth.
You're very welcome.
It's been a little while that I've done an interview because of things going on, very busy. But I first read your story on a group on Facebook, and once I read that, you mentioned a few things that just kind of really resonated with me around trauma and around you inspired me with where you're at now.
Oh, thank you.
Having also touched on some real dark stuff that happened in your childhood. So I just knew without knowing any more that I would love to sit and talk to you on Searching for Truth. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, no, thank you. Honestly, I feel really privileged that I'm able to do this. So thank you.
Yeah, and I know the listeners and watchers of this will know what I mean by this towards the end, if not sooner. But I am really proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
Honestly,
Thank you. It means a lot, that.
You're doing, considering what you've been through,
Yeah.
you are now on and I can feel it, I can see it. You are on a journey of healing and ultimately finding yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
And isn't that what we're all trying to do?
Yeah.
Understand, find out ultimately ourselves, because
absolutely.
Yeah, if we've been a bit screwed up, then we kind of detach ourselves from ourselves and then spend our whole lives either further detaching or searching for something that's missing, which is, you just said it before I pressed the record button. I feel like I'm finding more of me now.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I'm starting to become one instead of all these different personalities. I'm finally feeling like I am becoming me for the first time in my life. So yeah, it feels weird. It's really bizarre, but yeah, I'm proud of myself. So
yeah,
it's very rare to say that in US. So yeah,
I love
mad.
it. I love it. You're shining a light. You really are. I don't know too much about your story. I know bits here and there from what you've written. So would you share with us today what you feel you are willing to share so that our listeners and viewers can get a picture of Chris and what he's been through, and just share with us a little bit or as much as you want to. And
definitely. I was sexually abused by my father. Started round about, I only figured this out properly when I got my records, because that's how I managed to put all the jigsaws back to place, really. And it started when I was around 5 or 6. My dad's friend used to come into my bedroom. My brother would be we would have like shared, if like it'd be like 2 beds and we would share a room, and he would come in and he would obviously get his genitals and whatnot out, and he would not ask me, he'd put my hands on his penis and he would make me perform oral sex on him. That's all I really remember from that part of being 5 or 6. And my dad used to beat me with leather belts. He would get me and my brother to wrestle, and whoever had lost the wrestling fight would get the beatings from Chris, which is my dad. Oh, so I shouldn't really say his name, but you know what, I don't care. So, and then I eventually moved from my dad's. I got kicked out of my dad's house. I then moved back to live with my mum, where I kind of just went off the rails sort of thing. And I openly told my mum that there was a man visiting my bedroom and stuff like that. Now I only obviously found this out due to my social services records. And nothing kind of just got brushed under the carpet sort of thing, really. And then
How old were you then when you were
I
up with
was
your mum?
6.
So not long after then. You were still very young when
Very young.
when you got kicked out.
Yeah, my dad kicked me out and left me on, because we lived above the shops in Ellesmere Port, and it was like a big balcony, like it was like an L-shaped balcony. So our houses were on top of the shop sort of thing, if that makes sense. And I can remember to this day, I had all my stuff on the balcony, and he kicked me out, and I was stood on that balcony until my mum's friends come and collected me. And then took me obviously to my mum's, where I just didn't settle. I was very angry, I was very aggressive, and my mum just used to punch me and hit me, and she'd be sitting there getting off her barnet on cocaine, all stuff like this. So then my behaviour went really, really bad. I was labelled as this naughty child, as they'd call me. I wouldn't go to school, didn't like anyone touching me, I wouldn't let anyone help me get me dressed. Then this continued until I was about 7 or 8, when we moved from Upton to Birkenhead, and then I moved back to my dad's because my mum couldn't cope with my behaviour. And then that's when my dad's bedroom, because I used to sleep in my mum's bed because I didn't feel safe on my own. Never did. I always slept in my mum's bed when I was at my mum's. And then when I went back to live with my dad, couldn't sleep in my bed. I had to sleep in my parents because I just couldn't sleep on my own. And then that's when my dad would start getting me to perform oral sex on him. Every night I stayed in his bed, that would happen. And that went on until I was around, probably say, when I went into year 7, because I got removed from his care then because he beat me up again. So that's when the sexual abuse stopped then, when I was around, I don't know how old, I only know through years from school, because I just found it hard to figure out how old I was. Does that make sense? Now I know when I lived with my dad, when it was just me and him, I hated going to school, because when I was a kid, I broke my nose when I was a young boy playing, I think, was it like British Bulldog? We used to play in primary school, and someone obviously put the foot out, so I hit the floor face first and broke my nose, and I had this really big nose when I was a kid. So I didn't like going out because I used to get bullied for it. My dad used to call me this big nose CUNT, I was this big gay person, and that's what my dad would call me, for years and years and years, really. And then I left my dad's care when I was in year 7, and then I went to live with my mum. And then because of my behaviour and stuff like that, I got put into care. I got shipped from living in Birkenhead all the way to Blackpool. Kind of probably missed out a lot of my story. I'm just kind of going, really saying in one go, and then I'll probably delve into it a bit more. And then I was in Blackpool for a good while. But while I was there, obviously my behaviour was really bad. I used to run away and stuff like that. And I can remember one of my carers, obviously because I was kicking off, and as you'd call it, he beat me up badly. He had me by the throat, he'd punched me, he booted me, and everything like that when I was there. So because I was quite an open spoken person, even though I was a very timid, hurt, lost little soul, I still use my voice. I've always had that. I've always been quite fiery, I don't know if that's the right word or not. But so then I obviously spoke with my social worker, and then they moved me from that care home to another care home in Liverpool, where honestly it was the best place I've ever been in my life. They absolutely loved me. Really cared for me. Like I never wanted to leave there.
That's how they should be.
It really was, and it's every time I look back at my childhood, I think if it wasn't for them caring for me the way, I don't think I'd probably be here right now. To be
Wow.
honest, honestly, they were amazing. They were unbelievable. And then when I was there, I obviously used to go on family contacts and stuff like that. I can remember one year I went to my dad's, and I think it must have been about 14, something like that. I had a little can of lager for on New Year's Eve. You know, obviously going into New Year, but I was with my stepbrothers at the time, and they were like, they were older than me. They were like 17, 18, but like they were just as bad as me. They used to beat me up, and they used to put me in cupboards and that when I was a lot younger. They used to make me and my brother do these things, like they used to make us brick people's windows, and if we didn't do that, they'd beat us up because we were being fannies. And you know, they were scary. They terrified me when I was growing up because they were so big and they towered over me. I was only this little tiny little petite skinny little kid. And I can remember when I was there on the New Year's Eve, and obviously because my dad caught me drinking, or he levered me, full on punched me. I stood my ground because I was bigger then. I was a little bit bigger than what I used to be, so I wasn't scared of him no more. Well, that was probably the worst thing I could have ever done because he just levered me. And then I obviously my carers had to come and get me that night. And I think I was in their home till I was year. I was going into year 9, something like that. I was when. So I can recall this day vivid to my. It was horrendous. I was at my father's obviously for Christmas and whatnot, and I'd come home to the care home, and social services were trying to stop my funding for me to be in care because I was no longer required. I didn't need it basically, and I was like, well, I don't want to leave. Like I don't want to leave. I'm happy here. Don't want to go back home to my mum. I don't want to go home to my dad. I want to stay here when I know I'm safe. I've even got the letters. I even wrote a complaint to social services and everything to them. Reading it back was so surreal because I was so only a little kid. Do you know what I mean? But the fact I could, even back then, I was still fighting. I was still doing what I was doing, not even realizing what I was doing. And then I went on another family contact to come back, and all my stuff was packed, boxed, gone. And they kicked me out of care, removed me from the care home, and put me back into the care of my mum. But I didn't want to go. You know, she was heavily on drugs. She used to run away, and I can remember when we were a lot younger, she was always had trouble with drugs and alcohol throughout my whole entire childhood. That was our childhood with her. She used to work in all the pubs, so we'd have to go down to the pubs to get food and all that stuff like that. So she was really bad into that. And I can remember one episode where she'd fell down the stairs one day. Now I wasn't even in the house. As she fell down the stairs, I'd opened the front door to come in the house, and because I was there at the bottom of the stairs, she in her head thought it was me, and she levered me, battered me black and blue, all for herself tripping on the stairs. I got the brunt of it all, and then I can recall being on a camping trip when I know, probably going off totally subject for where I was 10
No,
minutes
no,
ago.
no, no. Carry on. You're actually pacing yourself quite nicely because you're like 5, 6, year 7, year 9. So you're doing all
Normally
right.
it's like,
You're doing all right.
and I can remember, this is going back before I left care, was it? I can't really remember. I just remember this camping trip when we were in Furs, because I loved being up, I love spending the time, I love staying up late and being that naughty kid who doesn't want to go to bed, you know. And we were camping, all the other kids were in bed. I was like, well, I want to stay up. I want to stay up. I don't want to go to bed. You're having a party. I want to join the party. I was only like, must have been about 8 or 9, something mad like that. Because I didn't want to go to bed. My mum and her 2 friends who were rugby players, all 3 of them beat me up. I only figured all this out was obviously again my social services records, because I had all the medical examinations and all things like that were in there, and it kind of just brought it all back to me. I had black eyes, I had bruised ribs, I had literally bruises all up and down my body, all because I didn't want to go to sleep. Do you know what I mean? It's bizarre, really bizarre, and it never really felt like me and my mum had this attached. I felt like it was gone. And I knew there was something not right with our relationship growing up. I always knew I was different. I always knew that I didn't fit into this family dynamic, if that makes sense. Then when I left care, obviously went back to my mum's in year 9. Didn't want to go to school, hated school, absolutely hated it. Even though when I was in year 7 and in primary school, I was probably one of the brightest kids in the school. I was so academically bright, it was insane. But as I've got older, my brain just didn't want to function in school. So I went into school eventually after like 4 months of prepping myself to get into school. I got into school and didn't want to have said naughty. You just get excluded every day. And then I'd done something to a teacher which was really bad. So I got excluded permanently for the rest of the term. So then my mum threatened me to go. She was going to take me back to my dad's because my dad lived in Sheffield. Then he moved away. So she threatened me that she was going to take me there, and I was like, "Well, I ain't going. Not a chance now. I'm not going back. Why would I want to go back to him?" So I ran away from home for a couple of days. I was only stayed at my mate around the corner, but they didn't know none of my friends because I would never bring my friends home because I knew what the house was like. And then obviously 3 days went on. I waited for the family to go out the house, and I tried to climb over the gate and climb through the bathroom windows to get some stuff. But as I was walking home, they'd clocked me and they had gone round, and my mum's boyfriend at the time slowed his car down, and my older brother and my mum jumped out of the car, picked me up, threw me in the back of the car, and drove me to Sheffield, and dumped me on my dad's doorstep. This was towards like the end of year 9, so it's like start of year 10. I would have been about 14 or something like that, I think.
Yeah.
Went there, didn't want to go there. There was no more physical abuse now when I was up with my dad. Because I didn't want to go to school. I wasn't going to school in Sheffield when I knew I would have got bullied for being a Scouser. It's like I was very streetwise. Looking back at it, I'm thinking, you knew, Chris, because I used to get terrored anyway for my accent because it was a proper Scouse accent, even though it's not that Scouse. But to them it was. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'd just hang around with my stepbrothers and I'd get up to mischief with them. And then my dad would continuously try and get me to go into schools and go to do this. And my dad used to batter, used to punch me, used to get these leather belts and used to whack them across my back. And I only managed to get out of my dad's environment was because I managed to get hold of a phone, and I got in touch with the NSPCC myself and told them that I was going through physical abuse from my dad. I was like, and I need to get out of this environment as soon as possible, really. Now they got in touch obviously with my mom, and then they paid for my coach tickets from Sheffield to Liverpool. Now I remember turning up in Liverpool. I had black eyes, I had bruises all over me, and these are off my dad and my stepbrothers. So then I obviously went back home to live with my mum till I'd finished school. Didn't do well in GCSEs at all. I think it was just troubled. I was always getting kicked out of my mum's house. Me and my mum would just clash. We'd fight. We'd have fist fights. My older brother Aaron, he used to batter me like my dad battered me. But and then again, he went through very, very similar that I went through. So I kind of get him. I don't really hold him accountable to anything because he's just as damaged as me. But that was severe in itself. Like, he used to stamp on my head, he used to literally volley me in the face. And we'd fight like you wouldn't ever thought we were brothers the way we fought with each other. But the bond we had was like we were like two peas in a pod, even though we'd clash. We were the only kids out of the 4 of us that got put into care. We were the only ones that got separated. We were made up. From what I got on my record, we were like used as the scapegoats of the family sort of thing. We were the ones that got blamed when there was a domestic violence case, it was always us two. We were the cause of it. You know, it was our behaviours this, our behaviours that. It was painted out like my mum and my dad just couldn't physically cope with us, when the reality of what was going on, we were getting beaten and battered by mainly by my dad with the physical abuse. My mum was more of the emotional and psychological abuse she used to do to me. Um, the games she used to play, like, you know, I was trying to explain how she was. It's really hard. Looking back now, she's a very clever woman. She's very manipulative. You know, she used to control the situation when we were growing up. Yeah, it was very strange. We were left to our own devices in a way. You know, she was always at the pub, so that's where we would have to go to get our money for our food, or we'd have to learn to cook our own foods. We'd do our own washing. We'd basically do everything ourselves, really, growing up. You know, don't get me wrong, she learned me some skills well. She learned me how to cook. It's probably the best thing she ever done for me, is teach me how to cook. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't all horrific. Don't get me wrong, we did have some good memories and whatnot, and a few family holidays and stuff, but the majority of it wasn't nice. It wasn't very kind.
Chris, can I just thinking about your mum, when you were on that holiday and you wanted to stay up, and you mentioned that, was it your mum and her friends that actually beat you up?
Yeah.
So there was, as well as emotional and psychological. Was it when your mum was drunk? Was that a drunken? Was that something quite regular from your mum as well, or was that?
Yeah, with my mum, yeah. Like, my mum hated me, absolutely hated me. Never really understood why. I never got why it was me. Why did I always get the brunt of your crap, basically? Why was it me? And then it was only of, again, I keep going back to my records because that's how I managed to learn so much. Like I was 3 months premature. I knew this sort of found out from my records, and obviously because I was a really poorly baby, my mum couldn't do the normal things a mum would do to a newborn baby, so she didn't get that attachment, and that's her excuse. That's what she says. But as obviously I was going through my records, it was Emma openly speaks that she doesn't have an emotional attachment to Chris. She's got no emotional feelings towards Chris. She doesn't want Chris in the family environment. It was always me. She didn't want me there. It was always me not to be there. And hearing that my mum openly said that she hasn't got like an emotional attachment to me kind of helped me understand that, and now I know why I felt so out of place. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to read, I've got goosebumps all over my body. And to read that, and to be always thought that it was all in my head and it was all just me, you know, it was always,
Yeah.
I honestly thought I was like proper insane, like honestly thought that. And it's only as I've got older and things like that, I know now that that wasn't me, that's their, sorry, I nearly swore then.
No, I say stuff. That's
Yeah,
their stuff. Yeah, it
that's
was never
their,
yours. It
no,
was,
and
yeah.
even to this day, I still battle. Like, I can't even have like a relationship with another man because of how I go mentally. I can't cope with it. It's getting better. Like, I'm getting better, but I think it's going to take me a long time till I can openly have a man in my life that I can trust and that I know that's not going to hurt me. Because I know before they even do something bad, I know they're going to do it. But I think that's me projecting my own crap into the world for it to bounce back and get me, sort of thing. But yeah, no, like, even going from leaving home, because I think I was 15 when I left home, or when I lived in hostels. Because when I finished school, my mum had this partner, and he was an alcoholic. She was an alcoholic with him. You know, he tried to beat me up, but I was a lot bigger then. I wasn't this little tiny kid, so I had the balls to stand my ground. Like, I'm not scared of nobody. Don't need to be now after what I've been through. Do you know what I mean? So that he was horrendous. I remember him picking up one of the sofa chairs and launching at me, and I just boosted it back at him. Police got involved. He just got a caution and whatnot like that. And my brother moved out into some like semi-supported living. So he's only like 18 months older than me. And then I was like, well, if he's doing that, I'm doing that. I'm getting out of here. And that was a boom. I'm gone. I went and lived in, it was like a little 1-bedroom flat to start off with. And then I lived there, because I left home, went to like semi-independent living. Because I just knew I had to go. There was no physical way I could have stayed in the family environment any longer. And that was probably the best thing I ever done in my entire life, was to get away. Don't get me wrong, I didn't have a job. I was in college full time. I was studying IT. Never used that qualification in my life, but I loved it at the time. You know, I smashed it. I'd done really well. And then I went and me and my friends got into one of their other projects where it was like a 2-bed flat, so we like shared our own flat sort of thing. But she was really heavy into drugs, and I was very anti-drug at that time. Never touched drug in my life when I was younger. Do you know what I mean? So that kind of didn't end well. I think I met my first partner, which, you know, it was the most amazing thing. If someone had been in love, I'd never been in love before, never really understood what love was. But that turned very, very toxic very, very quickly. He was the first person I confided in about my sexual abuse, because I think obviously we were getting down to whatever you do with your partner, and I think he touched me down the right side of me, and he done something to me, and I just lost it. Literally, my head fell off. I just broke down, started hyperventilating, and just come out of it and just told him. But obviously I was drunk at the time, so I don't recall saying it the next morning. He was like, "Do you remember the concept?" And I said, "No," and he relayed it back to me, and I was like, "Right, okay, shit, what have I done? What have I done? Why have I just done that?" You know, but and then I obviously asked him, "Please don't tell anybody. Like, that's my business to be telling people." He went and told my mum, went and told my nan. I went to, my nan's got like an allotment, so I went up to see my nan and my mum at the allotments. Put me in my nan's car, wouldn't let me leave the car until I openly told them. I was like, "Well, I've got nothing to tell you, you know, I don't want to tell you." And then when I told them, at first my mum didn't believe me. My nan kind of just broke down in tears. But yeah, my mum was very reluctant to believe that had happened to me, and she didn't know. You know, it's happened to another sibling of mine, but I'm not going to go into that. That's not my story to tell. But you know, eventually they started, as I was opening up more, they started to become kind of going, "Oh yeah, okay, that could have happened." Then when I was with this partner, he was the first person that introduced me to drugs. I think my first drug that I tried was ketamine.
Wow, straight in there.
Straight in that deep end, Chris.
Yeah.
And as soon as I had that was it. Then I was hooked right there and simple on drugs. I was hooked on ketamine. I was hooked on MCAT. I have it every day of the week. I was on it. I was so skinny. I was so scrawny. But then my partner, he cheated on me, so that I'd do it back to him. We'd end up fighting. But I mean, like, proper full on. Wouldn't be like a little scrap. It would be a full on fist fight. Now, I'm not an aggressive person. That's what scares me, because as much as we loved each other, we were very, very, very toxic for each other. But then, because of obviously all of our fallouts and stuff like that, BBM was a thing back then. That's how long ago it was. Him and his friends shared all my personal stuff all over social media, all over BBM. I would get messages saying, "Hi, you're a non-victim. Hi, your daddy raped you," and all mad stuff like this went all over BBM and social media, and people were just taking the absolute piss out of me. Sorry for my language. So that was really bad. That went on for a couple of years. But then I eventually got involved with a drug and alcohol service. I think I must have been about 20 when I was really 2021. I'd say I was when I was really, really bad. I got involved with them. I think with a waste recovery, they're called, most amazing place ever. They literally sorted me out to a degree, because I still kept having relapses, but I think I'll always have a little relapse every now and again until I'm fully sorted. Do you know what I mean? Um, but I'd never worked. So I was 21. I'd never worked yet. I was just trying to stop the drug taking sort of thing. So I was going there every week. I'd turn up. I'd turn up after being on like a 5-day bender, and I'd be like, right, let's go. But I'm sober. Yeah, the blatantly Christian art we can see. I thought I was sound. And I've been with that. I was with that service for in and out about 7 years. They, after 2 years of being there, they got me onto like an apprenticeship. So it was like we got like a little cafe in their building, so it doesn't look like a drug and alcohol service. It just looks like a normal little cafe, which so people are more comfortable going, if that makes sense, which is a really good idea, because I would never have went if it just looked like a drug and alcohol service. And I started doing my apprenticeship there. I was doing catering and stuff like that, which I've always had a passion for cooking. So that kind of got me on the road to recovery and got me on the road to working. And ever since then, I've always worked. Since then, I went on to like doing door-to-door sales. So for I think it was Marie Curie charity. So doing door-to-door.
I've done that. I did that.
I done that for about 6 months. I think I done it for the summer. I went not doing that in the winter. No. So I think kind of started going a bit okay then. Life was starting to take its toll. I was going a bit better. I then met my other partner, because I've only ever had two partners my whole life. Like that's all it is. That's all I've had. That's all I can go with. And now that was one of the most bizarre relationships I've ever had to experience in my life. And we were together for about a year and a half. But he would never call me his boyfriend. He would never show me affection. And when we were out, he'd be like, "Oh yeah, this is my life partner. It's not." I was like, "But just call me your boyfriend." He wouldn't take me on a date. He wouldn't kiss me. He wouldn't hold me. The only time he would be affectionate is when we were off our bonnets in a house party, and our relationship was drugs, and that's all it was really. We hardly slept with each other. I think we slept with each other like a handful of times in a year and a half. It was really, really weird. Now I always go with my gut. I knew he was up to something. I knew he was cheating on me. So obviously I, maybe this crazy little person that I am, downloaded all these apps and I caught him on him, pretending to be somebody else. So when I met him thinking he's going to meet this person, I was like, "Hiya, you okay?" Like, "Nice to see you." I just, because he knew that he knew, just walked off and went home. Now he lived in Chester. He lived in Chester at the time. So then the following day, I first woke up straight away, went down, and I got trained to Chester to confront him again. And he was on his knees. He was begging for me to stay with him. He was crying. He was this and he was that. So then I gave him another chance, and then it was on Christmas. I was really poorly in his bed, but I give him my old iPhone, but it was obviously synced to my iPhone that I had for me. So I was getting all his messages, so I knew what he was doing. And he was having sex with another man in the club that he worked in when I was in his bed. And then obviously I just lost it then. We ended up having a really bad domestic violence. It was. We ended up fighting really badly. Got to a point where like he'd have his hand around my throat and I'd be punching him. I'd pick up plant pots, I'd throw them at his bloody TV unit and his TV cabinet and stuff like that, smash his curved TV in because he cheated on me. Well, I lost it. Really, really lost it. And then ever since then, I've been like, no, I can't be in relationships with men because I know how I go and I don't want to be that aggressive, violent person anymore. Like that, because that's not me. That's how their actions made me be, and it takes me right back to being that kid. Every time someone does something to me, I'd go back to be that. I'd get that anger in me that I got when I was a kid. How I used to have to fight, because I used to have to fight when I was a kid. I used to get this rage up to protect myself. So it's only been the past couple of years when I've been looking into things and how your childhood impacts your adulthood and how it alters your development and everything like that. Like, I really understand why I did go so violent towards them partners and why I did react to that extent for what they were doing. So yeah, so that put a stop to me and partners, and ever since him, that's when to be fair, when I did meet him, there was positives in it. He did care for me in a certain way. Like, and he did show me how to care for people, and he introduced me to all these amazing people who are really, really close friends to me right now. And they've helped me on my journey so much. There was one of our friends, Tracy, when I first met her, she was like, you need to go into care. She's like, there's something about you. But you need to go into the care industry. She went, I haven't known you that long. I've known you about a day. But I'm telling you now, that's what you're going to do. And Lazy, as I think she seen me for who I was and not for this crazy, scatty person who was just constantly on drugs. I think she's seen me for me, and she was the very first person to ever see that in me. And so then I went into care, started working with adults at first. I was done that for about 5 years, and I was like, I'm bored. I need to do something that's gonna benefit me. And I was like, right, I was like, children's residential. So I'm gonna give that a little whirl, and that's how I swindled my way into the children's residential sector, which again has opened my eyes up to so many things in this system and how this system is crazy. It's the most polite way I could say it, really. Yeah, it's all about money. All these children are as a profit margin. I don't get a say in anything really because I'm just a support worker, which is really bizarre because we know them kids better than anybody else knows them kids. But we're not classed as healthcare professionals. We're just a support worker. We're just there to support. So
I bet those kids can get a lot from you being their support worker, though, right?
There's one when I very first started. There was this one young man. I instantly, straight away, connected with him. He reminded me of me. Bear in mind, I didn't know the story on my first day or nothing. Didn't know anything about this kid. Was just drawn to him, and he was drawn to me from the get-go. And then obviously when I've read his story, it's very, very similar to mine, but his is a lot more intense than what my stuff. Well, I don't really want to say too much because I don't want to, excuse me, speak about his story. But he just reminded me he was so shy, very timid, very clever, very mischievous, very, very quiet, and everything he'd do it quietly so that he would never get caught. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, I know you, I'm onto you. And then after 3 months of working there, I become his key worker, which I was buzzing about because I could implement things and I could put things in place. Now this kid had been passed from pillar to post around loads of different homes. You know what I mean? So he's never been settled. He's never had, from my perspective, he's never had staff that actually gave a crap about him. You know, when I started there, there was staff that were making fun of him. They would share his incident stories to me in front of him, and I'm like, don't do that in front of me. If you're going to do that, you take me into the office, tell me about his incidents privately, not in front of that kid. Do you know what I mean?
Did you say that to them? Did you?
Yeah,
I
reported them, mate. One thing I've learned, because when I first went into when I was in the adult, I had no idea. I had no idea anything about care. That's really the worst job I could have ever went for, because the thought of having to do personal care would make me, honestly, I was like, no, no, no. Because my sister used to do it. How the hell can you do that? It's vile. And then I ended up doing it myself. And like the all I bets on, thinking that he won't last 6 months, he won't even last a month. 7 years on, I'm still I'm still here. So, I learn my mistakes from when I worked in the adult. I learned report everything, because not many people do, because not many people have the balls to report things.
Yeah.
So the staff hated me. They used to call me grass and everything. I loved it. So I'd always report them, and then once they eventually left, because it was the turnover in these kids' homes as staffing is shocking. They wonder why these kids don't have any stability or trust and stuff like that. It's really, really bad. So then when I become a key worker, you know what? He'd ask me, he's like, I want to have more contact with my dad. I want to do this. I was like, well, I will do that for you. He's like, no, you won't. I was like, well, promise you now. I was like, if I promise you something, I'll make sure to do it. I got his contact with his dad up. I made sure that he had telephone contact twice a week, and the little things that he had kept asking for, I done to prove to him that he could trust me. Do you know what I mean? I was like, you've got to build that special rapport with these kids, which he did, and he honestly absolutely adored him. He's me little, honestly.
Oh, Chris, I love that. I love that.
It makes me dead emotional when I think about him, because he is just a mini me. Little bit more of a lost soul than I was, but he was boss. And then we started doing key work sessions around his emotions and around sexual health and what's right and what's not acceptable to do. But I'd do it in a way where it was very childlike, because that's how I have to learn very simplified things. I can't take in loads of information because my head just doesn't comprehend it. So I was just doing what I would do for me to learn. That's how I done it with him. And even when we had incidents with him, I'd always sit him down. I'd reflect back. I was like, well, how would you feel if I'd done that to you? What would it make you feel like if I punched you, or I spat at you, or I done this to you? What you do to us? And then he'd start showing emotions, and then he'd start crying. And like, see, I was like, there is a little soul in there, you know. Then he said his name, then good job, I never. Thank God for that. Would have been absolutely buggered.
I'd edit it out. It's fine.
Yeah, oh God,
Yeah, don't worry. Don't worry. We're not live.
So that's how I managed to get into his little hairs of, there is good people in this world, and you are capable. Like, they had him diagnosed with autism, they had him diagnosed with this, with that, and this and that. And I was like, there's no formal diagnosis. I was like, how can you diagnose somebody when he hasn't had an assessment for autism, he hasn't had an assessment for ADHD, he hasn't had an assessment for this, he hasn't had that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that kid. It's trauma.
Yeah.
No, it's not. You're not a professional. I was like, I'm telling you now, I know that he is a trauma-based child. So I got on the phone to his GP. I was like, right, can you just clarify to me that he's got a diagnosis of X, Y, and Z? And he'd be like, he's got none of that. He's just dyslexic. He's trauma-based. Well, that was it. And I was fuming. I was like, you have sat there and put all this training onto us for a child that's not autistic.
Mm-hmm.
I know an autistic child when I see an autistic child. I've worked with enough of them. Do you know what I mean? So then when I eventually got his final formal diagnosis, he then his behaviour just went from being this horrible, aggressive, nasty child, which he was. That's how he presented himself. After 4 months of me being his key worker, it literally turned around in him. There was no incidents, there was no spitting, there was no aggression towards us. If he was upset, he would go into his room. He had like a little door hanger, and he'd turn it and say, do not enter because I'm not in the mood, or turn it around, you're welcome to come in. So we knew then if he was in a mood to leave him alone. Do you know what I mean? Don't go and harass the child, because he doesn't want you. He doesn't want you near. And if he did have an incident, we would sit down with him and he would write apology letters to them staff. and that's how we had to get him to understand remorse and understand that these things aren't okay. Do you know what I mean? You can't do that. And prior to me being his keeper, he would just get away with it. He'd have an incident, staff would clean it up, and then he'd get taken out on an activity. That's how it works. We're not allowed to put consequences in place for these children because they don't understand them. I'm like, but he's got full mental capacity, so he understands them. He knows. He even tells me he's got our manager wrapped around his little finger, which she'd done. She'd have done everything for him. But then when she wasn't on shift, he knew I was the main one, so he knew he had to do everything, so he would do it. I remember there was one incident where he trashed the whole house, and he literally, the whole hall was full of clothes, toys, bedside cabinets, you name it, everything was there. I was like, I'm not a cleaner. I'm not here to clean. I was like, I'm here to support him. So I made sure all the fire exits were clear, pushed it into his games room. I went, when you're calm enough and when you're okay, you can come clean now. I went, and that is a natural consequence of your behaviour. So he didn't do it. The following day, it was still there. Me and the member of staff were watching telly because he wouldn't come and sit in the room with us because he knew he'd done wrong, and he was really embarrassed. 4 o'clock the next day, he come downstairs, snuck down, cleaned the whole room, come back in, he was like, done, and then ran back, and that was it. Never ever done it again since, because you knew the consequence of his actions would be he'd have to clean it off. That's what you know. And so after 6 months of that is because he was in like a 3-bed house and the company weren't making profit on our home anymore because it was a 3-bed house and he was one kid to that house, so they were losing money. So they were thinking about moving him. I was like, he needs to be in a solo placement. Don't put him with other kids, because if you put him with other kids, he's going to go from up here to down there, and he's going to divert back to his old behaviour patterns. I went, and I don't want that. I was like, because look how far he's come. Because in our company, we've got like our own schools where the kids go to if they can't get into mainstream. I was in one of them schools when I was in care, so I know how them schools work. They're not schools; they're just containments. Do you know what I mean? Like I was in a school like that, and even in my records, he'd be like, "He's not progressing. Christopher's too bright for this. He needs to be in blah blah blah." So I know how I haven't been there, but I know how they work. His reading and writing hasn't progressed the entire time he's been with us. I was like, well, why isn't that progressing? If he's in school 5 days a week, why isn't his reading and writing improving? So then I requested, obviously, homework booklets. I was like, I want them emailed to me. I want them bringing into service because he's going to be doing them. So I know what level he's at. And he just whizzed through them. Literally whizzed through. I was like, right, so you're a bit clever than what you're making out, aren't you? Like, I know you. I was like, you're playing the system. So then I started doing all that then. But then obviously he sadly got moved into another service. And because I was on annual leave for his LAC review, I think I was going to see Little Mix, but I was like, well, I'm not missing out on my content just for a LAC review. Like, that's a job. This is my life. This is what I wanted to say. Which I wish it did go now, because I know he wouldn't have been moved to where he was. They moved into a service. It was like 4 individual houses, but communal areas sort of thing. But he was moved next to a young girl, and then 2 other young lads. Now, his history, he is known to target younger people in a sexual way, if that makes sense. So he went to live in this home and went from being this amazing kid, slumbered right the way down. He wouldn't shower, wouldn't brush his teeth, he wouldn't eat, he would start urinating everywhere, feces everywhere, smearing everywhere. Now, we never done any of that with me, do you know what I mean? But they would, because when he moved, he battered me black and blue, like levered me. I had to get the police involved at this stage because it was bad. It was so, and I think that was him detaching from me. That was his way of getting away from me. Which, you know, and I had to get the police because I couldn't contain him. But I think that scared the living daylight out of him, to be fair. So after that, I wasn't allowed to work with him then for a while. But I kept it quiet. I was like, I want to work with this kid. I was like, I need to work with him. No, he's assaulted you. You can't. I was like, but he's assaulted many other staff. Why can't I go and work with him? I don't understand. And I think they were like, because the emotional attachment's there. So 6 months after him being into this new service, I got a phone call off one of our managers and was like, we need you to come to the service because this kid's in crisis. I went, don't tell me it's him. And he was like, yeah, it's him. So I went there and I was absolutely heartbroken to see the state of him and to see the way he was. He knew the staff didn't like him. He knew he wasn't wanted there. You know, he wasn't soft. He knows he would stand there and sneak down them stairs and listen to your entire conversation. So he overheard so many staff talking about him negatively and saying this, saying that, and blah 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 blah. So he would smash the house up. He would throw. He did make me laugh. He used to tell me, used to be disgusting. He used to basically poo in tissue, and he'd put it into like a little ball. He'd wet it, and he'd run down the stairs, and he'd throw it at the staff. Then when so
Nice.
and that's what he'd do. That was his entertainment because he knew they didn't like him. Do you know what I mean? So that's how he was like, well,
How long was it from when he left to you going and seeing him, like this sort of state? How long did that take?
December. 7 months.
7 months.
Yeah, and then I went back there in the June. Tried my best. To be fair, I did. He started improving a little bit. But then it was too much for me to cope with. Like I had my own stuff going on at the time. I was, you know, I was in therapy. I had a police investigation going on. I haven't even started on that yet. Oh my god. So we had all that, and then I had him. But he was my main priority. Really, like, he was literally. I would have taken him. And I would have adopted him. That's how much I cared for him.
I've got this, and I know anyone that watches or listens to this is going to really get that from you. It is so obvious that you are supposed to be in service, that you are. I want to touch on a little bit of what you've said about your childhood, but just on this for now, explaining all of that with that boy, I don't know what more you were going to say on that, but I can just feel the difference that you are making, will make.
Yeah.
You know, it's just so obvious that.
Oh, he's a special kid. He really
But
was.
then I think you probably recognise that all children are, you know, and especially the ones that a lot of adults would just label as you say, autistic, bad behaviour, you know. And you're going to be someone like myself, and thankfully, like there are many of us, will just spot that, and actually they're the ones you want to work with. Because you have an understanding.
Definitely.
What's coming out of this when you were talking, Chris? You said it a few times. Oh, they didn't like that because of my behaviour, or this and that because of my behaviour. But from the age of 5 years old, it sounds as though you were being both sexually and physically and emotionally and psychologically abused.
Yeah.
From the age of 5. Now,
that's from what I can remember.
Yeah.
Now I know things happened when I was younger. Do you know what I mean? Only because of my records. That's how I know so much, is because of them. Even when I was a newborn, like, my mum took my oldest brother, packed their stuff, and left me and my older brother. So they've got 3 brothers. The oldest one my mum ran away with. And left me and my younger brother in our beds and cots on our own, and went and ran away to another man's and left us. So I only know that from my record because I was literally a baby, do you know what I mean? And we were only found because of a neighbour hearing us scream. So social services were involved from the get-go in my life, and they knew what was going on and continued to allow me to be there. That's what I don't understand.
So that is a part of your story, isn't it? Because you wanted to get that investigated. Is that right? What you just sort of said there, because it's obvious that you shouldn't, especially you've just said that, and they
Yeah,
knew about that. 2 babies left on their own, and yet, you know, there's children being taken into care that I don't believe all of them should be. But then you hear that.
yeah,
It's to me, and I'm sure everyone else that gets to listen or watch this will think the
yeah.
same. No, why on earth not? Why on earth were you then? You shouldn't have had to deal with any of that.
No, that's what I do. That's what I do, really don't understand is they knew about the physical harassment from my dad. Like it's all there. Like it's all there. There's only a few snippets of sexual abuse in there because I think that got really hushed. Um, because I've got some records on my phone which I didn't realise they were on my phone until the other week, and I was on my way to work. I was just nosing through my phone, and then I seen them. I was like, I shouldn't really look at these because my head's gonna fall off, but I'm gonna look at them. I was going through, and it was like just a little tiny section it was, and my eyes just went straight to it. So this was when I was around 9 years old, and he come to my dad's house, and it was, does this child witness any sexual activity from adults? And it said no, but then in brackets, may have experienced when he was younger. Right, and I was like, so if I may have experienced and you thought I had experienced this when I was a younger child, why the hell wasn't I taken back then when told my mum men were visiting me in my bedroom? Why was just that didn't even get looked into? Nothing, none of my sexual abuse got looked into whatsoever.
And what,
So
you know, what really saddens me about that is when you said you used to go and you would only sleep in your mum's bed.
yeah, I used to fight. I used to full on fight with my sister from mum's bed. Full on fight with her. Like, no, babe, mad. I did, honestly, and it come to a point where it'd be me and my sister in my mum's bed because I would never. I think it was to the day I left. So I was a teenager still sleeping in my mum's bed. Do you know what I
That, I
mean?
mean, I'm probably right in thinking that that's because of what your father's friend used to do.
Yeah,
But then you also slept with your dad in your dad's bed for safety, but then he ended up abusing you as well.
yeah. I can even when I had my police interview, when it was the very first time I ever went into intense detail about it. I can still remember his boxes. I can still remember his bedding. Do you know what I mean? And I was saying this to my brother, I was like, if he didn't do that to me, why can I distinctively remember what his boxes were like, how many buttons were on his underwear, the type of floral bedding he had? I was like, the smell of the smoke in his bedroom, because he used to smoke in his bedroom. I was like, I was like, I can tell you for detail what that was. Like, and if that didn't happen to me, where the hell has this come from? Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not lying. This is what happened. And yeah, I think
And
it
I think the fact that you did tell your mom and your was it I know your boyfriend later in life, but did you speak to your mom before that, or did you
but no, only when I was a little kid.
yeah.
Um, Other than that, I've been silent till I was 18.
So when you were a little child, then because you see some children they completely just blank it out.
Yeah,
Some, myself included, knows that what happened was wrong, but then blames themselves because it's obviously wrong that you can't even talk about it. But I was a part of that act, so then I must be wrong as well.
yeah.
So it's just
Like,
like,
like with my
yeah.
dad, it was kind of like that was our time. That was my dad's. That was me and my dad's. That was just me and my dad. That was our time, sort of thing, if that makes sense. And then when he met his wife, who he's with now, um, they met within 2 weeks. She moved in with my stepbrothers. These big, huge, massive. They were like giants compared to me and my brother. Because I was only a really small kid. Considering I'm like 6 foot odd now, was a really, really small child. So these terrified us, do you know what I mean? And our whole life got ripped away from us. We were like, I had my own room, he had his own room. They come. I couldn't sleep in my dad's bed because she was there. I had to share a room with my brother because they took over his bedroom, and our whole world just got ripped right out of us. And that's when I went back to live with my mum, and my I shouldn't really say Ireland. I've just said it anyway because you can cut it out, can't you? He then got put into care, and then that's when I gallivanted to my mum's, and I haven't seen really my dad since then, apart from a funeral a couple of years ago. That was the only time I've seen him.
Do you think that he was doing that to other children? Do you think he was doing that to any of your older siblings?
Not me oldest brother, because he's got a different dad to us.
Right.
So I couldn't say about my brother. I don't know. I've got a feeling something happened to him. I If it's happened to me, I think it's happened to him too. Especially when we lived above the shops, because we shared a room then, you know. And a few of my dad's friends who were involved in his darts team, about 3 or 4 of them are now convicted paedophiles who used to be around us when we were kids. You know what I mean? So I don't know if it's more than one person. Could be more. Could just be this one guy. But I couldn't tell you. Yeah, it's quite scary. It's scary how much that I wish I could remember, because I probably understand myself a lot more than what I do.
Well, we protect unconsciously, subconsciously, we protect ourselves.
Yeah,
And I think as children, we don't know how to cope with certain feelings or emotions, so they just kind of get stored. But it
yeah,
seems to me when you said when you sort of took the drugs for the first time, that was it, full on. Right, you were drunk, obviously, you can't even remember what you said to him that night. But
yeah,
it seems to me that you may have opened up the box.
yeah.
You opened up a box that was full
'Cause
of so many emotions in there.
yeah, because when I was taking drugs, you know, I'd end up in house parties for days. Go in the bathroom, I'd have a heart to heart for about 5 hours with this person, and just go, and it would just fly out of my mouth, and I would tell everybody, because it just felt like it was so easy. But then when I was sober, I was like a totally different person. Like it was like I was two people for so many years. Um, but yeah, the drugs, they did help me. They helped me.
I was going to say there would have been a release. So even though,
Yeah,
probably, and maybe when you've coming down, because we all know there's you
the ups
can't
and
go up without coming down. So, and I'm sure there may be a bit of a like, oh gosh, what I've said, but I can bet that release,
yeah,
because that's me now really focusing on working with trauma. It's
yeah,
people, say, oh, you don't have to go there anymore. Just hide it away. Well, it's it's a little bit like a tumor.
yeah.
It's there, and it's not going anywhere. You can try and
No,
pretend it's not
exactly.
there and build this other personality
Yeah,
about it, but actually it's always going to be with you.
yeah,
So I think drugs is why a lot of survivors do go
definitely.
drugs and drink.
And I'm so glad that I done that, because as much as it was very dark times in my life, I had honestly an absolute balls over it. I loved it. I've got so many good memories from it. I've met so many really diverse people from it, like who I would never have known before. They would be my friends. You know what I mean? Um, but
And
yeah,
you
no,
got the help, thankfully. You had
yeah,
over years. I mean, it seems like there's two real saviors in your life from what you've told me. That care home,
yeah,
that one care home that you said just saved you. Thank the Lord. Because I tell
yeah,
you what, all I've been hearing about is, oh, well, you and I both know some of the horrific stories from the 80s and even beyond.
yeah,
So that's one of them. And then to have found, because I mean, about a while back, if you mentioned that you were on drugs, you would get to a doctor. They'd be like, oh, well, we can't help you then. That's a completely different. So I always worried about, well, where, is the support really there for these people
yeah.
where it's just all the drugs? Because the doctors obviously don't want anything to do with it. They're just like,
No,
So it sounds like they were a real saviour for you over
They
quite
were
a period of
amazing. They were
time.
so good. They were really, really good. And I've always been a confident person to go and get the help. Always have been. If I know I'm dipping, I'll go and get help. Like I'm
That
not
has
ashamed.
saved you. That saved you, I think.
Really has, definitely.
Having this voice, even from because from that happening from such an early age, what a lot of children do is they go inwards. So even though they might have a voice or be confident, actually that all goes within and they stop. They almost become muted and quiet and timid.
Yeah,
But there was obviously something. Obviously your behavior came out, understandably it would, I mean, after going through
definitely.
all of that, but you didn't lose your voice.
No.
You never
It's
lost
it's it's
it.
it's really, and it was really weird to read, like, because I done loads of complaints to social services. I didn't agree with that. I am not doing that. I want to stay, because he kept trying to move me homes. I'm like, well, I'm settled. I don't want to, because he wanted me to come back over to the Wirral instead of being in Liverpool, because I was in Liverpool. So he wanted me to come closer to my mum's. I don't want to. I'm quite content here. Like, I absolutely loved it. It was amazing. Um, so yeah, every time I do a complaint, he'd listen. He'd go, right, we're not moving yet. But this, obviously, the last time when he kicked me out and just stopped my placement, that's when it kind of tits up, really. Because I think if I'd have stayed there until I was old enough to go and get new, I'd have been sound. Do you know what I mean? I'd have been, well, not sound, but I would have been better than what I was.
But I always think, look, where you are, where we all are now,
Yeah,
right? We can look back and we can think, oh, it's up to us what we decide to do with that's behind us.
definitely.
It's up to us how we respond to that.
Yeah,
And there were two real gifts in your past that, okay, it didn't go on for longer, but look at where you are now.
yeah,
And I can feel and see you using these gifts to then turn around and help others, which
yeah.
is just so, regardless of whether it could have gone on longer, you are where you are now, and you've got a smile on your face.
I know, it's bizarre.
You're happy. And I just, it makes me quite emotional because I can feel it. You've got so much to give.
Thank you.
And if I know it's horrible, I don't know if you could say the same as I do. I say I would never want to go back and do it again and live it again.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I wouldn't change a thing
No, definitely not. Because I
because
don't think
now
I
I'm in a
wouldn't be,
position to understand and help.
and I wouldn't be who I am today if that hadn't happened to me. Do you know what I mean? I probably would have been stuck up, see you and whatever. If I'd had, do you know what I mean? I'd rather be this person who I am right now than a person who had the perfect childhood and who had got everything they wanted. Do you know what I mean? Because money, no money doesn't bother me. The only time I'm really happy is when I don't have no money. It's when I'm the
Yeah,
happiest.
no money worries. All these
Uh,
people with so much money, so much like things to pay for, you've got even more to worry about.
yeah,
As long as you've got what you need, to
that's
survive, money just gets
this.
in the way.
Yeah, it does. And you don't. I didn't really realize it until I had my I had a breakdown in December just gone. Because obviously I used to work full time, and I used to work like 70-hour weeks just because I love the money and I love going out and I love spending money. I love buying clothes and all the nice things that everyone likes to get, like society makes us want in a sense. And then when I had my breakdown in December, I think it was just all the stuff that I was looking into last year. I think that tipped me off a little bit. I just because I went really deep into that rabbit hole where I was sucked into it where I couldn't look at the actual what was going on around me. But obviously I had my police investigation going on against my dad and his friends, and I was in two lots of different therapy. I was obviously working full time with that young person, and just got too much, and I just hit the most massive brick wall of my entire life where I just didn't want to be anymore. And I knew I wanted to go. Like, and I never felt so comfortable in my whole entire life knowing that I'm going to go home and kill myself. And it was the most surreal. I can't even explain to you what it what it felt like. Because I was in my appointment with my support worker from Rasa, who was helping me with the investigation, and she's the only person who's like supported me in that type of environment, who's goaded me and got me and asked questions and was brave to ask questions that no one's ever asked me before, if that makes sense. So she was proper challenging me, so I knew I could speak to her about it. And I was stuck in the room for like 4 hours because she wouldn't let me go. She was like, I can't leave, I can't allow you to go out into the public while you're like that. I was like, no, I'd rather you not, to be fair, because I don't want to do it, but I want to do it at the same time. And then I went to my sister's after being there, and my little niece and nephew were there, and I was sitting there just watching them play, and it was like it was the last time I was going to see them. But it felt so real. Like my head was so clear. Like normally my head's going, well, none of that, all that stopped. Everything had stopped. And I eventually come home, and I was gonna overdose myself. But then as I was just about to do that, my adopted mum next door was on my door and my window and wouldn't stop until I answered, and that's what stopped me from taking my own life. Never ever thought I would be here, sitting here doing all this 9 months later, or 8 months later, whatever, how long it is. I was speaking to obviously my advisor from the job centre because I had to go on the bloody rolly joel and all that malarkey, because obviously I wasn't working, because I took some time off. I think took like 5 months out of work. I've never took that long out of work before. I was saying, I was like, I don't want to be. I was like, I don't want to go to college. I was like, I don't want to do nothing. Like literally, I am done. January come, I started to feel a little bit better, and I started taking medication because I'm very anti-meds. I don't like medication, but I've kind of, the ones that I'm on, I don't mind, but I want to come off them because I really don't like them. I'd rather just do it, if that makes sense. Started to feel a bit better. Started changing, because when I'm in a low mood, I binge on sugary stuff. Like that's my go-to. But I can eat an excessive amount of binge food in such a short space of time. It's really bad. I think that's how I've coped with things. That's how I've always done it. Because I remember as a kid, I used to make myself be sick when I used to eat and stuff like that. So that's when I know when something's triggering me, I'm eating sweets, because I don't really eat sweets anymore. But I started to change my diet, started eating extremely healthy, I forced myself to work out, started doing WIC workouts, because obviously we were in lockdown, weren't we? So then that was it. Then I started writing little goals down each day, like dead simple, tiny little goals, like get up, have a wash, cook your tea, that little things like that. And then he started getting into a bit more ones where I was doing like, you go and do an hour walk, you go and do an hour's workout, you do this, do that, and every day, and I would do it every single day. I got myself into a proper routine. Honestly, changed my whole life. Doing them tiny little simple things.
Oh, I love it.
Literally, it got me motivation back. I was like, right, I'm going to apply for college. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. And then I started with this company called Be Well Learning, because obviously I wasn't working at the time, so I thought, well, I can get government-funded courses. Why not? I've paid enough tax in my time. Thank you, government. So I started doing this course on understanding children's mental health and stuff like that. So I've done that, and then when I was doing it, I didn't realise. I was like, I don't know that much. Not really clued up on it. When I was doing it, I was like, oh my god, Chris! Like, I was just relaying my life back onto paper, and I didn't realise how much I actually, how much I know about mental health. I was like, God, I go guru over there. So then that was it. Then I was like, no, I'm going to go and study mental health. So I finished that course, applied for college, I've got into college to start in September. So I'm going to go and study psychology and mental health. Don't know what I want to do in university yet. I want to I want to go and do mental health nursing or child psychology. I'm really unsure, but torn between them two. But yeah, I'd never thought I'd be going back into
Oh,
education
oh,
in the slightest. So, and because I've got a friend Rachel, like she's literally, I think she's like my soulmate, but pity I'm gay because we'd be absolutely perfect for each other. And she is honestly been the biggest supporter for me in every aspect. Like she proper believes in me, and she when I do something out of line, she puts me back into shape. Do you know what I mean? But she's the only person that can do that, and I would allow that too. Like, and we've got this bond. Like, I've never had a friendship like it ever. Ever.
well,
We've
what
never.
you're talking about there, Chris, is
Yeah,
what you should have had from being a baby.
yeah,
That's what we all should have.
yeah.
And that it sounds as though you've got unconditional love with her.
It's unbelievable, honestly. And whenever she watches this, she'd be sobbing. She'd be like, "Oh no, he spoke about me." she'd be crying her eyes
Yeah.
out. But yeah, no, honestly, and she's just been so supportive in every aspect of my life, and she's the only one friend that doesn't like a lot of my friends, associates, whatever you want to call them. They were always interested in the party making, the drug taking Chris, the one who was absolutely crazy around the bend and dead loud and egotistical. That's how it was. I was very ego driven. But she's the only one friend that isn't about that. And if I do go down a slippery slope, she will tell me. Do you know what I mean? She will, but she's very honest, very direct, and that's what I need. And she's the only friend that I can say that I've really got that I trust 110% with my life.
So it's beautiful because it is saying you, do you know what you've done really well in this interview, because you've oh, it's beautiful. You've kind of taken the steps beautifully to here. I haven't really
Shocked.
I haven't really had to kind of like direct anything. You really have. Beautiful. And so therefore what excites me now, especially with the unconditional love that you have and the love that you are obviously finding in yourself as well,
Yeah,
it's like your journey's just beginning.
definitely it is. It really is. Even like tomorrow, I've obviously since I've been delving more into my mental health and stuff like that, because I know that's my purpose. Is mental health is my thing. Obviously I've signed up to volunteer for this mental health charity, called the Open Door Charity, and I'm going to be starting there tomorrow. Actually, got my first mentoring sessions tomorrow, so I'm really excited about that. Yeah, they do like this program. It's called Bizarre, and it's like it's got aspects of like CBT therapy, but it's not the full-on therapy, if that makes sense. And it's like a computerized eight-week session. So it's across 8 weeks, and it's to work like with, I think it's between ages 15 and 30, and it's to work with them on their anxieties and their depressions and basically what's troubling them right now. And it's all done on computers. So this computer tells us what we're doing, and it's like little video clips, little exercises, and I've basically got to like mentor them on how to slowly change their thinking and
Wow.
help them cope in with the issues that they're going to
Wow.
be at their. So I'm really nervous, but I'm really excited because I know so much about it, but it's the
It's
practical.
perfect. It's just absolutely perfect. I
So
couldn't
yeah, I'm
agree more.
buzzing. I'm really buzzing. Like
Um,
me.
just before, I just want to say, because I don't want to, I know there wasn't this investigation. Do you want to, can we talk a little bit about
Yeah,
that before?
yeah, no, of
I'm not sure
course,
we
yeah,
got that in, and I don't, yeah.
yeah. I'm trying to think. So it was so 2.5. Yeah, about 2.5 years ago, when obviously my friend's mum, my best mate's mum, my adopted mum, as I keep saying, he lives next door, literally there. Obviously, she told me about I could access getting my social services records. And I was like, I don't know how. She's like, well, you can just simply call up, request them, go and get them. So that's what I've done. So I've always done like that about going to the police. Do I want to, or just do I want to bring it all up again? That's when I was like in my early 20s. I was like, no, I'm just going to leave it. We'll put it to bed. And then when I got this, and then when I seen what was in them, and about my dad's friends coming in my rooms, and what my dad done, and what my mum done, and that I was just basically like a little piece of meat that they just flung around, like I was nothing. I was just like their little object in a sense, and I was like, well, no. I owe it to that little kid. I owe it to myself. I owe it to that younger me who was a scared, innocent little kid, to fight this. So, but I got the courage. I went to the police. Obviously disclose everything when I had a video interview. And because there isn't a great deal of the sexual abuse in my records, there's just little snippets where, like as I mentioned before, about the little, as he witnessed it, or he may have witnessed it when he was younger, little things like that. So there wasn't really that much information in my records for them to go like the solid evidence there for the case. So like a year went on, I hadn't heard nothing. So I kept ringing and ringing and ringing, and they said, well, it's your word against this man's, your dad's friends. So we're not going to pursue it. The CPS have dropped it. That's not going to go no further, but we are going to keep going on with your dad. I was like, right, okay. And then lockdown hit, and then because my dad was classed as vulnerable, as he'd say, so they couldn't go in and interview him, and like, because of socially distance, I was like, well, what's the harm in you going to interview him with a face covering on, pair of gloves, keeping your distance from him? I was like, I don't understand what the issue is for you to going up to go and interview my dad in Sheffield. You're like, oh no, we can't because of COVID, but we can't do that because he's vulnerable. And then the next excuse was, we've asked Sheffield Police Station if they can bring your dad in for questioning. My dad just wasn't responding. He wasn't interested. He couldn't get hold of him. And then when he eventually got hold of him, he finally admitted to them that he used to beat me up with belts, and he used to do this and he's done that. Excuse me. But he denied the sexual abuse. Always denies that. But he denies the physical abuse to me, my dad, because I rang up and asked him. He just denies everything to me. So that kept going on and on, still no updates. 2 years later, January this year, obviously after my really down, dark days, coming to the new year, and I was like, you know what? I was like, I do not want to bring this into another year of my life. I can't do it. And it wasn't affecting me so much, really, because it was just in the back burner. Because it was there, but it wasn't there because there was no progression. And I thought, you know what, that's probably another reason why I've gone boom and I've dropped, because that is just there in the back of my head, going and going and going and going and going. Now I know nothing's going to come of that. I just know it.
It's just kind of prolonging it, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, and I thought,
like, what are you really trying to achieve here? You're not going to have a relationship with him again.
no, and I knew deep down that nothing was going to come of it. I just knew it.
Other than mental turmoil.
Yeah,
which is
100%.
obviously what happened.
Yeah. So I rang the police. I was like, stop the case. I'm stopping everything to do with it. I was like, do I want to bring it into another year in life? I went, because this year I'm focusing on me and me only. No, so just stopped everything. Just stopped absolutely everything, and I haven't looked back since. But then there's still this thing with social services, that I'm not doing it just yet, because I don't think got a lot of, I want to focus on me for a bit first and get myself in a position where I know I can cope with that mentally and physically and emotionally, really.
When you say social services, so that's you want to do the same, actually, an investigation into why they
failed me, and and like allowed me to be in the care of two people who they knew were abusing me, and knew that my mum wasn't fit to look after her children. They knew she was on drugs and alcohol. They knew that she would have loads of different men in our houses, and a lot of dodgy little things going on, you know. So
I'm really glad that you are not doing that just yet, and you're going
yeah,
to focus on yourself. But I'm also really pleased that it is something that you will do, because
100%.
I do, but I'm working, I'm not working, I'm very aware of the corruption within the family courts, within social
Yeah,
services, CAFCAS. There's real life situations happening now with children where social services are deliberately leaving the most vulnerable
mm,
children and actually breaking up the families that don't really need any help at all, any
yeah,
support at all. And it's almost, you can see it once your eyes are open, which yours are. Once your eyes are open to something, you see it even more.
yeah,
And it's so obvious. And I think it's so obvious that that was happening even back then in your case, you
yeah,
know, because that is, sad as it is, what the system is doing. Whether the social services, all of them aren't necessarily involved, but the powers that be know what outcome they want. And it's
yeah.
about breaking families down and children. Yeah,
It's so corrupt. Like
it's
it's
awful. I mean, it's just sick.
yeah,
But, and I think it's why the likes of you and I and many others that I interview, we're awake to the bullshit that's going on in the world. Because
definitely.
once you've experienced it, you've been in it and you've seen it, whether it be the police, the social services, family courts,
Yeah,
see more things. People that aren't seeing them are the ones that probably wouldn't have had any of the problems, like what you said, you know, if you hadn't, you probably would have ended up being a right toff. Yeah, you maybe would have, and you probably wouldn't be awoke to any of this either.
no,
And that's
definitely
why,
not.
again, I think there is gifts. As much as we don't want to go back and do it again, we don't
Yeah,
want other children going through it, but we don't
exactly.
also, we just need unconditional love from
Yeah,
the start. You need, like your friend, what's her name?
Rachel.
Rachel. We need a
Yeah,
Rachel. We need a some, you know, like we
yeah,
need someone.
definitely. We do. We really do. Like, and especially like, what I see in my job, like it's all to do with money, and the more how can you work? The more I don't want to say damage because it's not a very nice word, but the more issues that child has, and the more behavioural and more naughty, as you'd like to say, they're worth more. So basically, the more damage you are, the more money you get for our company, and that is all it is. And it's the I yeah, it makes me so angry just to knowing that like them kids just a profit in this
You
company's
know
eye.
what? I'm turning it around and you're turning it around so that these
Definitely,
children, before it's too late, and I mean too late as in they don't give up or
yeah,
either get killed or kill themselves, that they realize that actually the more damage, I don't like using that word either,
it's
but the
horrible,
more
isn't it?
it is, it's not a nice word, but actually the more horrific the trauma, if you can find the right people, the right support, actually the
Yeah,
gifts are even bigger than anyone probably on your street or even in your village. It is huge, and that
yeah,
is what gives me real, like, oh, just I just want to keep going, you know, because I'm
definitely.
realizing it myself. I'm seeing it massively in you. Your gifts are huge.
Oh,
So it does come good in the end, but it's going to
yeah,
be the likes of real people that have lived through it, been through it, and come out the other end to deliver that message.
definitely.
And on that note, right, because we're going to have to wrap up in a minute, I've done the angels.
Oh, oh, I totally forgot about them. You know.
So I always shuffle them. I was doing it. There were certain points where you were talking. I was like, I'm just touching the cards, touching them. And then I shuffled them. Like there's a card that's underneath, right? Which is just so, right. Okay. I'll come to that one in a minute because that's the
Okay.
overall card, which is just beautiful. But two of the cards that well, there's three. Okay. The first one was the Angel Prince of the East. Now, I need to look up that and find out more about that. So I won't talk about that now, but I'll put it in the comments and I'll obviously share it with you. The
Yeah.
second one, which is one of the highest Oracle realm cards, is the Archangel of Glory. which is just beautiful. It's like for me, glory, being, and power are kind of like you've got guardian angels sitting on your shoulder, but then you've also got something much more higher realm, and
Yeah.
glory is one of them. And yeah, the third card was the Angel of Harmony.
All right.
Okay, but the card that I really am excited about, because it's the overall of everything that yeah, and it is the Guardian Angel of Service.
Oh wow.
And this doesn't come out very often, but you are here for service. You are here on service. I really feel that, like everything that you've been through, everything that you're working through now with yourself is for others. It's oozing
Yeah.
out of you. And to have the overall card, you have got service all over you. That is what you're here for. That is what everything was about.
Yeah.
And you're getting justice along the way, whether it be actually in a court system or not. In your
Yeah.
heart, you are.
Definitely.
I feel that anyway, that you are getting
Yeah.
justice, and that's why your wings are flying and you're flying.
Oh, thank you. That's amazing.
Did someone tell you to do this, like just like very simple tasks in the morning? Was that something that you got from council, or did you just?
Yeah, no, my because when I had the police investigation, I was involved with Ras and Merseyside, so they would like support me while I was going through this investigation, and it was her who said to me, just do little tiny simple goals,
Yeah.
but just not. It's just something that resonates with you. No, nothing else. It can just be very very simple, like getting dressed in the morning. That's a goal. Do you know what I mean? And that's how I started, and that's what I do. I even do it now. And if I don't do it for a couple of days, my head falls off of it. Because I wake up and I've got nothing there to do. I just do go back into my old habits. But if I do myself a task, which I've done today, I've done them all now. This is my last one of the day. So
And
I
so
mean,
therefore you feel good, isn't it
yeah.
about like
And
feeling?
what you told me to do is write it just before you go to bed. So when you've written just before you go, and then you go to leave it, wake up in the morning, it's subconsciously got into your mind, so you automatically get up and do them things, and it works.
Oh,
It's
thank
mental.
you. Thank you.
It's mad how it works. It blows my mind.
Well, I wanted to bring that up again and ask you
Yeah,
about where you got that from, and also for you to say it again, because it does
yeah,
work, and
it does.
it's simple but so effective.
Yeah.
And I wanted you to say that again because I know that there's some real nuggets in that. Before we finish, Chris, is there anything that you want to say before we do finish?
Um, I don't know. I always get
I
stuck on
mean,
them.
I'll help you out a little bit here. I don't want to put words into your mouth or anything, but I feel that this interview is, and even before we started, like encouraging, and I know you're on the same path of me, to encourage survivors, especially of abuse, to speak out. Not necessarily on an interview like this,
Yeah,
not necessarily in a book, but to speak out, whether it's,
yeah.
someone you trust.
I think
For me,
it's
it was speaking. I went to be a speaker, and I didn't realize that I had all this stuff in there, but then I suddenly was on the stage and it all just came out.
just came out.
Yeah.
I've never done this before ever. Well, I've always wanted to do something where I could speak, but I'm not good at writing because of my dyslexia, and I just can't do it. Just I'd like to do it, but it bores me, so it doesn't interest me. So I can't do that. And I've always wanted to share my story. It's all been one of my things I've always wanted to do, and I've just done it. Which is really, really weird. But no, I would definitely advise people, if they're scared to speak out, just do it. Because if you're scared, that means it's good. Nerves are good. And my nan told me that the other day, if you're nervous about doing something, that means it's good for you. I was like, oh my God, nan, well, go on, yeah. And that's so true. And, you know, and there is light at the end of this dark, horrible journey that you don't think there's going to be any way to exit of, you know. And if you do feel like the only way of you dealing with your issues is taking your own life, then that's not, that you don't need to do that, you know. Like, I've been so close to doing that myself, and now I'm so blessed and grateful that I'm still here today to be able to say, you know, talk. That's the most important thing to do, is talk. Even if you just journal it to yourself at first in a little book, you know. That's how I started doing it with my therapist. Um, and I found it easier personally speaking with people who I do, like a therapist, speaking with people who I weren't close with, because I feel like if I'm close to them, I feel like they're going to judge me. Now I know if someone doesn't know me, like, it doesn't bother me, because I know they don't know me, so I can just say it comfortably to random people. But close people, like my best friend, like, she doesn't know certain things that have happened to me where other people will, if that makes sense. So yeah, and baby steps, like, baby steps are the biggest steps you can ever take, because baby steps get you a very, very long way. And I've always said that, and it's helped me to get to where I am right now. So yeah, I just hope.
Do you feel, I mean, this card Harmony, the Angel of Harmony, you did mention when I told you about the angels that you are slowly starting to get into more of
Yeah, I mean, it's been the past couple of years when I've started getting my records, and obviously going to see my friend who does all the spiritual healing. Me and Rachel's mum, Sarah, me adopted mum, we have both been on this little spiritual journey together. We've both got our own little car. I think she's probably miles ahead of me in her spiritual journey. She's proper delved into it all. But yeah, I've got my own oracle cards. I try and zone in and meditate with them and things like that. I sage my house, sit down, and get in a little Zen mode. Like, I never once thought that all this could help me. Do you know what I mean? Years ago, I'd been like, "Oh no, you're crazy! Like, you're crazy," but it actually works. Like, it really, really works, and I would never ever stop, like, not do it, if that makes sense. Like, even like with the full moon rituals and the new moon and all these cycles and stuff like that, I'm starting to learn a bit more, and then I try to stay on the ball with all, but sometimes I do kind of spiral off. But like, I done a full moon ritual the other night, and I watched this woman on YouTube, because I think it was the full moon of Aquarius and Leo. Now, they're both my social planets, and that what I struggle with is communicating and speaking out and being confident to speak and stuff like that. And she was showing me how to do it all, and what to write down and how you write it. And I've done all that, burnt it all into the universe, done a meditation, and I feel like a different person.
fabulous.
Insane. And
Yeah.
even after doing that, I went to my training for the Open Door charity. Now that, and I went into this room and it was full of like 50 people, and I've never met any of them before in my life. Me, I don't, I can't cope with situations like that. So I was having a big anxiety attack before I went. Got there, I started over sweating because I was so anxious. My t-shirt got see-through. I was like, I'm gonna have to go home. I was like, I'm so sorry. Calm down. But then I was speaking out, and they were asking questions like on trauma and things like that. And normally I wouldn't be able to speak in a room full of people. Just started coming out of me. I was speaking in groups of people. They're confident, and people are like, "Oh God, you know quite a lot, don't you?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." I was like, "I do, yes." And I was just so confident in myself, and the fact I'd done that, I was so shocked. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for talking
No,
to
thank
me.
you.
I
Honestly,
know for a fact that there's going to be you're going to have, this is going to have helped some people.
I
In
hope so.
there's a lot of you know, when you've touched on the you know, just last year, how low you were.
Yeah.
And I started the interview saying, no one wouldn't, people won't understand this yet, but they will at the end, how proud I am of you. I didn't know all of this then. I just felt it from the little bits I'd seen. I was proud. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness, Chris.
It's
For
crazy.
the rest of your days, I know we have down days or whatever, but you should be holding your head up high with pride with where you are.
I am.
Honestly,
I
I
am.
salute you. I really do. I'm quite emotional actually because
No, same.
I want to see, everyone that's been through what you've been through coming out the other end
Yeah.
like you and living life on purpose
Yeah.
and being able, but not denying or trying to forget anything. Actually, you've brought it to the surface, so much so that you've decided you're not going to go full on with the social services until you've got more of your own life sorted.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Definitely. I want to focus on me, and I want to get to where I want to be before I know I can finger, which is because I know that's going to be a heavy journey as well in itself. So when I know I'm ready, I think I'll know when I'm ready. I think it would just happen, and I'll just come and do it like that on the blue. That's what happens.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
I'm looking forward to the future. It's gonna be good.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Honestly, I'm so blessed. Honestly, I can't even believe that I've just done it.
You've done it.
It's insane, isn't it? I am honestly, I'm so grateful. So thank you.
Oh no,
Really, really appreciate it.
I'm really grateful to you. It'll probably be because I've just started a new job, so it's probably going to be sort of the weekend, maybe early next week that it comes out. Because
Yeah.
yeah, I've got a lot on, but it will be out and it's going to make a difference. It really is, Chris.
Well,
Thank
no,
you so
thank you.
much.
Well,
Thank
here's source to change in our corrupt world, isn't it?
Yeah,
One
that's what we
step at a
want.
time.
One step at a time, indeed. Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh,
Oh no.
I'm going to do an outro, so I'm going to keep it recording. So I'm going to ask you to leave, and then I'm going to do a little outro, and that's what will be at the end of the video version of this podcast.
Yeah.
Chris, thank you so much.
Oh no, thank you so much, Donna. Honestly, and it's nice to virtually meet you properly.
I know. Finally.
Uh,
And the next one will be a proper,
100%.
yeah.
Definitely. You take care.
All right, you too. Mwah.
Bye.
Take
Bye. Bye.
care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And I say my goodness because my goodness is my light, and my light is shining after that interview. I really meant what I said at the end of that. In an ideal world, and I just keep praying and praying that we're on our way to an ideal world, that every child born is born with unconditional love. I mean, it shouldn't even just be one person. It should be a community of unconditional love. That's what it should be. And when you hear Chris's story and the abuse, the rejection from from a baby to being sexually abused, physically abused, emotionally abused, from all the way from a baby all the way up to his teenage years, and then of course that then abuse, you abuse yourself, so it just doesn't stop unless you find that unconditional love later in life or that support, which thankfully he did. But what about those children that don't? Well, that's why this is so important, so that those of us that have experienced this can come out the other end and be that support for others. So that's what I'm hoping for from this interview. Thank you so much for listening or watching. Please do put some notes in the comments. And yeah, I'll be back again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.